Eating healthier or making more money. Those are the two most common New Year's resolutions that you and I set when the year starts. Which one of those was yours? Here's the shocking truth that you and I fall victim to. About 9% of people actually sustain those resolutions, those big, ambitious goals into the rest of the year. Most of us fall off, guess where? In January. So by the time we reach March or even February, so many of us have completely forgotten, have let go, or have lost track of those New Year's resolutions. So today, let's talk about what you and I need to do. What is it that has us consistently getting to a point in March where we've forgotten our goals, we've fallen off the bandwagon, and we are still showing up as the same people? Because if you understand these three key things, you can shift these three key things about how you set your goals, how you see yourself, and how you approach change. You will never be one of those people who gets to July, who gets to June and goes, what? What New Year's resolutions? What happened? Who did I say I wanted to be? You will be able to sustain your goals, to keep your momentum, but reach the end of the year with deep satisfaction. So let's talk about it. Now, here's the most important thing that is something that trips so many people up. And I do a lot of work around change with organizations, but also with individuals. And I find that so many of us reach a point where we think we are going to keep doing the exact same thing and showing up the same way as we did last year. And by the time we get to the middle of the year, maybe 3 quarters into the year, we're finding that we've only literally just been the same person, but we've been expecting different results the entire time. Now, there's a range of different New Year's resolutions that we might be setting, but the key challenge comes in with our staying power, our capacity, or our ability to maintain the goals that we said we wanted to set. And the big challenge that I find so many of us have when it comes to this is that we don't understand how actual change happens. Because at the end of the day, if you're not understanding what it is that makes a change sustainable, how you keep showing up as the same person consistently, and you find yourself stuck in the spiral, in this loop of just being the same person over and over again. If that's where you are, it's really important to go, okay, what's the strategy I've had the entire time? How do I tweak that strategy? How do I start thinking about it completely differently and do something that I haven't done? So I'm going to run you through 3 key things that are going to need to shift, change, and be challenged in your life, that once you really look at these things are going to start showing up really differently for you. So you know that this video is for you if you're the kind of person who every single year you find yourself setting big, hairy, audacious goals, exciting year's resolutions that when you start the year, you're like, yes, I'm going to do this. I'm going to be a different person. But then by the time the middle of the year comes, you're finding yourself in that spiral where none of your goals have been met. You're not ticking anything off, but you're possibly even in a position where you've forgotten what those goals were to start with. So you know that this video is for you if that's where you're on. Let me know in the comments if that's where you're finding yourself. And as those of us that are on a journey of unlearning and relearning, it becomes so important that we understand that the unlearning journey doesn't happen overnight. So let's jump right into those 3 key things that are important for you and I to understand. First thing that you need to unlearn is the idea that your goals are set in stone. When we start off the year, often we have this idea that these New Year's resolutions, these goals, these targets that I've set are the targets that I need to be able to account to by the time the year ends. And even though this is really exciting and I can understand how ambitious we are when we set this, what it does end up doing is it holds us captive to a version of ourselves that we aren't anymore. Think about it this way. The version of yourself you were when you started off the year, when you set those goals, was very different. You set them from a perspective of the person you were the year before. And so you were setting them from a fresh vantage point, from a different ambition. You wanted different things, but you were also in a different position yourself. Maybe you had a much smaller family. Maybe you lived in a different city. Maybe you had just experienced something that had influenced how you thought. Maybe losing a loved one, maybe gaining a pet. Whatever it was, all of those experiences and perspectives had come together to form the goals that you set in that moment. And that becomes very important for us to understand, because when you hold yourself accountable in the middle of the year, 3/4 into the year, at the end of the year, to the goals you started with, it's really important that you keep in mind you were a different person at that time. So when you set those goals, I really want you to now, at this point, wherever you are in the year, to unlearn the idea that your goals are set in stone. So what do you need to relearn? The idea that you're allowed to change your goals. Your goals are allowed to shift. And that flexibility, that adaptability, that agility is really one of the key things that make your momentum even better. Because if you have the ability to look through your goals, whether it's every quarter, every week, every month, or when you get to the midpoint in the year, you can look at them and go, oh, okay, things have shifted for me. I'm a different person. I'm thinking differently. I've been influenced by a new experience in my life. Maybe I've just graduated, or maybe I've just welcomed a new member of my family. Things are now completely different to how they were at the beginning of the year. That means you can shift those goals, and you're not sitting at the end of the year going, oh, those goals, really, that's not me anymore. Instead of actually shifting and allowing those goals to evolve and adapt to who you are now. So that's the very first thing. Your goals are not set in stone. If you get to whatever point you are in the year and you are holding yourself captive to being that person, understand that you are not them anymore. So allow your goals to evolve. And when you check in on your goals, really ask yourself, am I still the person who set them? Do I see things differently? Do I want something else compared to what I wanted when I started off? Second thing that becomes super, super, super important for us to unlearn, and really to challenge that so many unlearners have in their minds when they set their goals, is same me, different year. And this is probably the toughest one, because often here's what we do. We tell ourselves, yes, it's 2026, new year, new me. But then as soon as the year starts off, we go, okay, it's really feeling like a different year, but it's still me. And then we expect a different result. So very much like the first unlearning, it becomes important that you understand that unless you and I really start thinking about ourselves as new in the year, then we're always going to expect or think about ourselves as the same person with the same goals and really the same capacity. But here's the big unlock. You are a different person. You might not feel that way, but it's important that you understand that you are. You've got new experiences. You've got new exposure that you've got new things that you've learned. You've got a new vantage point and perspective to life that you didn't have last year. And if you approach this year as the same person, or thinking that you're the same person, you're missing the boat altogether. You have new people in your network. You have new experiences that you've had that mean this year can be completely different. That means that when you approach the challenges, when you approach the thought processes and the building and the creation of this year, you can pull from a different source or different stimuli. So don't make the mistake of thinking that it's just a different year, but you're the same person. You really, really are a different person. So here's the relearning you need to do. Ask yourself, 2026, 2027, 2028 is here. Who am I that I wasn't at this point last year? What are the things that have changed about me that can create an unlock in my life? So for example, who else do you know now that you didn't know at the time? Which networks are you now a part of that you weren't at the time? What experiences have grown you or developed you or opened your eyes that didn't or weren't present at the time, this time last year, the year before, the last quarter, whatever it is? Because at the end of the day, you and I only behave, only choose, only decide from who we think we are. It is our identity that drives our decisions, that drive our buying habits or not buying habits. So really, really understand that you are a different person. And the more you start to think of yourself as different from who you were last year, the more you'll be able to make different decisions. But if you still think, same me, different year, then you will find yourself staying captive to that identity and then making choices that that person would have made. But you're not that person anymore. So let's jump right into the third big unlock and unlearning that so many of us need to understand. And this one I really, really like. And here's what it is. I'll get a different result by being the same person. And can you see how all three of these are closely linked? So we've got the first one, my goals are set in stone. The second one was same me, different you, a huge unlearning. And the very, very last one is I'm going to get a different result, but I'm going to stay the same version of myself. I'm going to make the same decisions. I'm going to think the same way. I'm going to hold the same perspective. This one sounds simple on the surface, but it's probably the biggest unlearning that if you do nothing else in this video, you just take that one away. Don't expect. Please don't make the mistake of expecting that a change is going to happen in your external environment, in your work environment, in your career, in your business, in your personal life, in your relationships. If you don't make the change in terms of your perspective, your mental models, the decisions you make, the words you speak, because that's where everything stems from. If you and I understand and we can make the deep unlock or the relearning of really acting and choosing differently, you will know, if you've watched me forever, you will know that one of my absolute phrases that describes the unlearning journey is the incredible words of Viktor Frankl, who says, between stimulus and response, there is a gap. And in that gap lies your power to choose. And at the end of the day, unlearning is about the capacity to be faced with the same stimulus, but make a new decision. And so you and I really need to be able to choose differently. Get into the same situations, face the same people, have the same triggers around you, but build the capacity to choose a new response than what you would have chosen before. Because at the end of the day, unless you start to be faced with the same things and choose differently, you will always get the same results. Because if you're saying the same things, you're acting the same way, you're thinking the same way, then it creates a spiral of behavior that only gives you what you've received in the past. And it sounds like motivation, but it actually literally is the neuroscience of change and the neuroscience of learning. So learn and get yourself into the habit of coming face to face with the same people, coming face to face with the same situations, but stopping. Remember the space and choosing something different consciously and intentionally until you build the default over time. And yes, habits are tricky to create, but at the end of the day, it's all about the sustainability and continuing over and over and over and over and over and over and over. You get where I'm going with this. Over and over and over again. How do you know when the habit is built? When it's the default. But even then, you just keep doing it. Because at the end of the day, it's more than just a place that you arrive. Habits and the new version of you is a lifestyle. And that's really the most important thing that I want to close this video off with. So the three key unlearnings that are absolutely going to change how you approach your goals when you set them, whether it's your New Year's resolutions or it's just a goal that you set right at the beginning of the quarter, in the middle of the year, at the end of the year for a short period of time. If you can really shift these three key things, you will make a big difference in how you approach change. And you won't be the person that sits in the middle of January and goes, what resolutions? Where? What happened? So here's what they are one more time. The very first one, my goals are set in stone. Oh my goodness, once I set them, I can't change them. I'm beholden to those goals. Second thing, same me, different you. I'm pretty much the same person. I'm just going to try do things differently. No. You really are completely different. You've been exposed to different things. You've been stimulated differently by different experiences and stimuli. And then the last of the three is I'll get a different result if I just remain the same person. By being the same person, I'll just do things differently somehow. And that's not the case. You and I really need to make the different choices and intentionally drive behavior change, especially right at the start when we're moving against the current of who we've been for a very, very long time. You've built up those behaviors. You've built up that identity over time. And so the intentional, deep choosing and work really comes in right at the beginning when you start to be faced with the same things but making a different decision. Okay, Now, wherever it is that you find yourself at the moment, I hope that these 3 key unlearnings are super helpful. If you're watching this in the middle of the year, I'd love to invite you to our mid-year reset webinar that we host at The Unlearners every single year. So go over to theunlearners.com and save your seat at the webinar, because wherever you are in the year, we can always use a reset to help us realign to the goals that we set, refocus us, but also take stock of what's working as far as our change goes, but also what's not, and how we can shift that. I'm wishing you an incredible journey of unlearning. Happy unlearning. Bye for now. I'll see you in the next video.